Windidly and welcome to my garage. My name's Fred Hope. My username is EpoDurf, which is Fred Hope backwards. In this video I'm going to let you know 10 things that I've learned about the Honda Super Cub 125 in over 1,000 miles of riding. It's the 2022 model JA58. Let's go! It is slow. I just did Land's End and back, my house to Land's End and back, which was 600 and something miles all in. The moving average was 52 miles an hour. The average speed with stops for fuel and not dying of cold was 45 miles an hour. It's not fast. Does that mean it's dangerous? Not really. It just means you've got to plan ahead and you can't expect to get places really quickly. On the flip side, it does make it a very good bike for nipping around. Number 2. This bike is great on fuel. I calculated my average miles per gallon for the trip down to Land's End and back, 600 miles-ish, and I was flat out for a lot of it, and then there was lots of sniggly lanes. 139.9 miles to the gallon, which I think is absolutely brilliant. It's a lovely solution to the cost of living and moving around crisis that we have in the UK at the moment. But it's always nice to motor cheaply wherever you live in the world, so amazing on fuel. Number 3. People like that bike. Depending on who you talk to, I have anywhere between resting bitch face, the aesthetic of an Eastern European hitman, the look of a Charles Bronson impersonator. Some people have said my accent and the way I look are mismatched and unsettling. I'm not Mr. Approachable, and that's fine. However, on that bike, loads of people want to talk to you. It's a totally non-threatening vehicle. You pull up on that and people want to know where on earth you came from, and then you can start chatting about how long it took, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, and people often say, oh, my dad used to have a Honda Cub, my uncle used to have a Honda Cub, so it's a great conversation starter. And it's not one of those enormous adventure bikes. You can still ride long distances on it. It's not going to do it as capably as a big chunky adventure bike, but wherever you go, it's clear that you're just having fun, you're not taking things too seriously, and it makes you approachable. Number 4, if you ride that thing in winter, you will get cold. When I left my house, it was about 2 degrees. I got to Penzance, Land's End, the Lizard. It was much warmer. However, coming back, it started about 3 degrees and it was -2 by the time I got back. I have winter gear, I've got winter gloves. None of it's heated though, and that made for quite a miserable journey considering it's 5.5 hours of just sitting there only stopping for petrol. I've got a theory about the cold and misery continuum, which I'll put up now, but basically it takes 10 minutes to stop sulking about being cold. It takes about 30 minutes to get back to the coldness you were before, but there's a gradual decline over a very cold day on a bike, and you will get cold. I'm looking at some mitts. I'd probably buy heated, or you just say, well, don't ride in -2. It took my body about an hour to warm back up having got home. It took my hands over a day to feel normal. The fingertips felt like plastic and I was worried I'd damaged them properly, but they did come back. But if you ride it in the winter, especially in the UK or somewhere colder, you will get cold. Number 5. Hills and weight are the enemy. Lots of you are probably thinking, well, just eat less, live off your fat reserves like a seal, it's winter. I totally agree. However, loading that thing up with a nice big top box, which I've put on, there's a video about how to do that somewhere else on my profile, but loading it up with luggage and just trying to go flat out everywhere, it does struggle. It's only a weak little engine, it's 125cc, plus you put a lump of a bloke on it like me, then you put all the kit on as well. It's probably dragging 150 kilos along, which is really admirable, but it just won't be quick. And hills are the enemy. You'll very quickly drop to about 40 miles an hour up a hill flat out, possibly even less if it's really steep. You live for the downhill, because I've had it doing 71, 72 once. But yeah, a lovely flat piece of road is where it's most happy, flat with twisties on, and eventually it'll get up to about 60 miles an hour on the flat, all being well. Number 6. I'm discussing all of its limitations, and really I shouldn't be, because despite all of its limitations, it can do it. It will get you there. and it will get you there with a smile on your face. Because it's so limited, because there are only 4 gears, because there's not very much power, because it's thin little tyres, not very much grip, all of this stuff, anything you do on that bike feels like a brilliant achievement and just fills you with mirth. It's really, really good. So despite its limitations, it will get you there and you will have fun doing it. If you're considering buying one, I'm very biased, but you definitely should. Number 7. The seat is uncomfortable. I'll give you that. However, 2 things I found really work well for helping you forget how uncomfortable the seat is. One is extreme cold. If you're distracted by how cold you are, you won't notice how uncomfortable the seat is, I promise. The second thing is, by putting a top box on, you sort of give yourself a backrest so you can sort of move around and lean about and slightly feel better about what you're doing. The seat is uncomfortable, but it is not a deal breaker. I should know because I sat on it for sort of 15 hours in 3 days, possibly slightly more than that. And it wasn't a deal breaker, but it could be more comfy. Number 8. The fuel tank is tiny. It's really good on fuel, but that is balanced out by the fact that it has a tank the size of an ant's thimble. It's probably going to give you about an hour flat out before you have to start thinking about where the next fuel station is and where you're going to stop. That said, I was using it for a big long distance ride covering 300-ish miles in a day, and that's not really what it's for. For nipping around, the fuel seems to last forever, but as soon as you get on it, the fuel doesn't seem to last very long. I haven't seen anyone mod them with a bigger tank. I think it would be overkill unless you were doing a stunt and riding around the world or something, but the fuel tank is small, about an hour flat out. Number 9. It's better than a Honda Cub 90. I've got one and I love it, but it's just slightly better in every regard. There's more power, the brakes are better, it handles better, the suspension is better. Everything about it's just a little bit more. So to use the word super, i.e. over and above, slightly better than, or a lot better than, is absolutely apt. This is a Super Cub. Can it still exist next to a Honda Cub 90? Do you need both? Definitely not. If you're going to get one, I'd say you'd probably get more use out of that. They definitely need to have a top box on, regardless of which one you have. But they're appreciably different enough to enjoy them both. I thrash the snot out of the Honda Cub 90. I thrash less snot out of that and ride that one long distance. But it is better in almost every way, apart from comfort. I wish it just had one long bench seat as opposed to the sort of cuppy, saddly thing that it's got. Regardless, I've spent many miles sitting on this one. It's not that bad. In terms of keeping up with traffic as well, that Honda Super Cub is much better. I've even overtaken some slow stuff on it. Whereas a Honda Cub, you're constantly working and whisking the snot out of the engine to get it going. You can broadly keep up with non-motorway traffic on a Honda Cub 125 pretty well. Does that make it safer? Maybe. I don't ever feel unsafe on a Cub 90. But if one of your main concerns about safety is going as fast as all the other traffic, then a Super Cub is better than a Cub 90. Number 10. I'm going to stick my neck out and I'm going to say that that bike there is a future classic, particularly in the UK. Why do I think that? It shares a lot of common architecture with Groms and Daxes and monkey bikes and things, so it's not particularly special. However, I've not seen another one in real life on the road. The waiting list for them is very long. Its genetic code, its lineage, is really easy to see and feel and absorb. Everyone that sees it, most people that see it, seem to like it, and they've not sold very many, partly through people not desiring them, thinking they're quite expensive, partly through just not being able to get hold of the bits to make them and import them into the UK. But I think in, 33 years' time, 34 years' time, the same age as my Cub 90, they won't have sold that many of those, and I think they will have lost very little value, and if anything, well maintained, they might be worth more. So I'm sticking my neck out. I'd be very happy to hear in the comments that I'm totally wrong, but I think that that bike, for what it does, and for the way that it makes the user feel, could well be a future classic. To anyone that's a stranger from the internet that watches these videos, thank you very much. For people that subscribe, even better. it's quite peculiar. I feel a bit weird when I go outside and do biscuit reviews and stuff, but the internet seems to be far more accommodating of that sort of thing, so I'm really happy. If you're a person that knows me in real life, cheers for watching. Hope you have a good Christmas. In the new year I'm going to do more biscuit reviews. I'm going to get through all the basics and go on to the complex ones. And if you've got any questions about the Honda Cub, please feel free to ask them. And just thank you very much for watching, and stick around for more videos. And if you haven't watched the back catalogue, give it a spin, because it's the Christmas holidays and you'll only be eating and drinking if you're not watching telly. Cheers then.